Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to kind of a chatty video slash kind of a review, reviews plural. It's going to be kind of like rapid reviews, but I just wanted to chat a little bit about my book rec form and the 100 books I've read now using it. Now, the title might be a little clickbaity because we're not going to talk about all 100 of them. We're going to talk about the ones I've read since the last time I made this video, but I keep track of which ones I've read off of the book rec form, obviously. And how was I going to say this? And when I realized that I've read over 100, I was like, that's so cool. So I started the book rec form. It was in the summer of 2021, just as a way to condense all of the recommendations that I get from you guys, because that is one of my favorite things. It's a privilege and a joy to get hundreds of recommendations from people. When you have a book rec channel, that's what you get, and it's amazing, and I love it. But it also can be very overwhelming and hard to track them and keep an eye on what has been recommended to you, right? So because of that, I needed a way to kind of condense them. And so that's why I started that book rec form. And it's in all of my videos in the description, as well as a video rec form, which I started more recently, which I don't always get to use, but when I'm stumped, when I'm having a tough time coming up with it, that video rec form has saved my butt many, many times. And so I highly encourage you to use those whenever you want. It's unlimited. You can put in as many as you want. With the book rec form, I thought I would kind of like just go over it a little bit quickly before I dive into this, because like I said, I'm going to do kind of like quick reviews of the books I'm going to talk about here, but I thought I would kind of share some guidelines that sometimes people look at and sometimes they don't, but I just, I never want to waste anyone's time, and especially when someone recommends a book and then they wonder why I never get to it. Well, number one, there are hundreds of books in here. I've had over 1,000 books recommended in there. Like I said, I've read about 100, and then there have also been ones where I just won't be reading them because they're too outside of my like comfort zone of ones I would read. But I love it. Like, I love it. So what you see when you click on this book rec form is a couple of guidelines that I have. And again, sometimes people listen, sometimes they don't. It's totally fine. So what it says when you click into this, it says book recommendations. Recommend a romance to me. You can do it anonymously, or you can say who you are if you'd like a shout out. The only rules is that it's to be a romance. That's what we're all about, preferably with some level of steam. I'm not really interested in closed door books. That is a caveat. Like, there have been a few that have been almost closed door and I still like, but I ask that you tell me the tropes involved. This allows me to search for certain words when I'm in a certain mood. That is indicated by this year I'm doing a trope challenge where I'm trying to read as many like tropes as I can. And so if you put the tropes in for me, then I can Control F on my document and it pulls up the fics that have those. So definitely put tropes in there. Please do a separate entry for each book. Sometimes people just want to list every single thing at once or a whole series. Like, I prefer that you recommend the first book in a series and not just say the series title, because again, I want to be able to control search for it. And if you just put Immortals After Dark, well, that doesn't help me, right? That doesn't help. Like, it'd be better to put A Hunger Like No Other by Cressley Cole, and then we start it. Then it says, please do not recommend books that aren't released yet. These are recs that I can read at a minute's notice. So this, I noticed some of these rules have been added, like, on the back end of stuff, right? Because I was having lots of people recommend like upcoming books to me, and I was like, but then if I pick that book because I like the tropes or whatever, and I go to look it up and I'm like, well, it's not even out for 6 months. How's that supposed to help? So please wait until the book is out. You can put it in here on release day. That's fine, but as long as I can get to it, right? Then please feel free to recommend fan fiction if you want. Ooh, this is something I need to change. I had said as long as it's on an archive of our own, because previously that was the only way that I could download to my Kindle. Just tell me which site it's on. But now, and you'll see this, I have recently put up a fanfic recommendation video. There is a way to turn a fanfic into an EPUB, which you can send to your phone or your Kindle, which is great. You can recommend as often as you want, and when I read it, you'll get a shout out if you wanted your name in there. And then I hope this can be a fun way to get recs from you guys. So that's what my mission statement is when you read it. And then there are 3 questions, super easy. 2 of them are required and 1 of them is not. So it says book recommendation, book and author. This is something that I kind of wanted to reiterate because it doesn't always happen. Like I said, people want to put an explanation of why they're recommending the book or whatever or any of those things. I could add a question box that says why you're recommending it to me. Maybe I'll do that. We're just going to do that. Look, we're making changes to this form that I've had here forever. Because what I find is that, like I said, why do you... We'll just do that. There we go. Oops, it's not multiple choice. It is a short answer. People will try to write a whole convincing thing within it where I want it to look really clean when I'm trying to choose because it just makes it easier. And I know that is me being like, oh, you're making it easier for you. I mean, yeah, because I'm the one getting the recs. That's what's happening. So you need to tell me the book and the author. Just don't put anything else in that line. Just put the book and the author. Then the other thing that's required is for you to say what is the subgenre and the tropes. So tell me it's historical, tell me it's sci-fi, tell me it's post-apocalyptic, tell me that, and then which tropes. Like I said, dad's best friend, that's where we went. Office romance, fated mate, tell me those things. And then we now have 2 optional questions because I just added 1. And this is where you can put, why do you want me to read this? And your social and your handle. Maybe I should put that at the end though, so it doesn't fuck it all up. Come on. There we go. So yeah, so those are the 4 questions, easy peasy, for this form. And through this form, like I said, I have received hundreds of recommendations and I'm so blessed to have them. So I will, I'll admit to, there are some that just get deleted right away. What are ones that get deleted right away? Books I've read before. So this was something that I also asked, and I took it off the form. Maybe I should put it back in, is that if you follow me on Goodreads, please just, when you look up the book you want to send, look and see if I've read it. Because I can't tell you the amount of times people have recommended a Cressley Cole book to me. I've read all of them. People have recommended, who's another one that made me laugh? Oh, Lisa Kleypas. Julia Quinn. The amount of Julia Quinns I've got, damn. I've read every Julia Quinn ever out. Now, again, I don't mean this to sound cocky or demeaning. I want you to give me the recs. And if you put a rec in that I've already read, you're not gonna, I'm not gonna kick you off. I'm not gonna do anything. But like I said, I'll just delete it. And I'll be like, oh, that person didn't know. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. I'm just trying to, like I said, not waste your time and not waste my time, because I always feel bad when someone recommends a book and they'll put this really sweet reason why they want me to read it. And I'm like, I've read that book. I've already read it. Sorry. I'm not going to read it again. You know what I mean? So anyway, what is something else? I think that's kind of it on that. Oh, other reasons. Well, other reasons, I do have some no-go authors that I don't plan to ever read their books. And I have a few videos floating around that have that, but it's also just, I'm not giving you a list of who to avoid. I'm just telling you why, if you recommend certain authors to me, you won't be seeing me read it. Like Mariana Zapata or Rena Kent or Penelope Douglas. There are just some authors that I've read enough books by them, and they're like not authors that I'll read more books by them, you know? But you don't have to worry about that. You can put the rec in. I'm just explaining those are the things that will get a rec just like deleted, and you'll probably won't see me read it because, I mean, at the end of the day, like, these are recommendations. I'm not like committed to these. They're just to help me pick a book when I'm can't decide what to read. So with that said, we've spent 10 minutes on the build up, but like I said, I just kind of wanted to go over the form with you guys. Maybe you didn't know that I have this. Maybe you didn't know how the recommendations are happening, but yeah, I use this little book rec form. I've been using it for a while, and it has gotten me some of my favorite books. It absolutely has. So I've made 2 of these videos before. I'll have them linked here, talking about the other 70 plus books that I read. This one I have about 30 to talk about today, and they'll be kind of quick reviews because all of these books I've read, they have been in weekly wrap-ups, but I just wanted to put it in one place to, again, like, be bringing up the book rec form and to show you, you know, there's a variety. Like, some of these, there's a 6-star book in this rec, and there are some 1-star books in here. You know, that's just how it goes. And I'm always pleased when you guys rec one. And again, you can keep it anonymous if you want to. That's totally fine. So the first one that I read in this round would be Instinct by Allison Blackwood. And this was anonymously recommended. This one is a caveman or prehistoric romance. And I very much enjoyed this because just previously to this, I had read Row by Dylan Page, which was, I loathed that book so much. And that one also had a caveman-like man in it. But this one I liked because they were both prehistoric people. And so both Row and Transcendence, which are other books I've read with cavemen type men in it, the woman is from a modern time. Where Instinct, we have woman and man, and woman has a dog, and woman lives with a group of women, and they're very afraid of men because they've only ever seen men coming in and taking a woman, and it's not described as assault, but like that's what's happening. And so they're very afraid of man. And she meets this man while she's playing with her dog at a pond one day, and he starts coming around, and they end up having a romance. So this is a very quick book. And it goes through like their meeting and they're falling in love and discovering sex and discovering like life together. And it was just so sweet. And honestly, it was just such a sweet book to read after Row, which made me want to pull my hair out. So I gave this one 4 stars. So thank you to Anonymous, whoever recommended this to me. Then there was Supplicant, The Supplicant from Sierra Simone. This was recommended by Jess, who is Golden Valkyrie on Instagram. And this one was I was so surprised I hadn't read this. There are so many novellas Sierra Simone has written, though, for different anthologies and for different things that I don't always get to them because I just want Sierra Simone to write me full-length books, damn it. And so I get annoyed with novellas sometimes because I want more. But this one was very sweet. This one was a second chance romance, and it was an age gap, and the hero and the heroine, like, he was her professor, she was a student, and their affair was kind of a scandal. But neither of them have been doing well since the breakup, and this is really the hero's kind of like grovel and his bid to get the heroine back. And I loved it quite a bit watching him do it. So I gave this one 4 stars. All right, then we had Notice by Kay Webster. This was recommended by Daniela. You'll see Daniela show up quite a bit in these recs. Daniela has been my ride or die on YouTube and my Patreon and Instagram for years. And so I take her recommendations pretty seriously because our taste crosses over quite a bit. So this was, and also Kay Webster she's a wacky lady. She writes a lot. This one was a stalker romance. And I gave this one 4 stars. This was a little bit beyond my realm of comfort for the kind of stalker that he is. This one involves some somnophilia and some control and dubious consent, but Kay Webster still manages to make the hero charming in a way. This is also an office romance where like she was his secretary and then she doesn't feel appreciated, so she's going to leave, and now he decides he's obsessed with her after the fact. And so that was a very interesting that was a very interesting turn of events, because it's literally like she gives her notice and now he notices her really like for the first time, and he goes full-blown stalker psychopath mode with it. But I think I mean, I still gave it 4 stars because it was wacky and it was a good time. Master of the Mountain by Cherise Sinclair. This was recommended by Diane L. Diane, thank you for this rec. I want to read more Cherise Sinclair. She's a tough one because a couple reasons. Her covers never really sell her books well, okay? We've seen this happen with The Sons of the Survivalists, a series that I absolutely adore, but those covers, okay, they're a hard sell. Same with The Masters of the Mountain, all right? So this book, this is this girl, she goes on a retreat with her boyfriend, doesn't get told that this is like a sex retreat, and on this sex retreat, he's going to be sleeping with other women right in front of her. And so the man who is like an owner of the cabins that they're at, he ends up kind of taking her under his wing and giving her some pleasure and some dominance as well. So this was a 4-star for me. All right. Then we had a fanfic. We had Far From the Tree by Adiomai. And this was, I'm sure I said that wrong. I'm sorry. This was recommended by Safia. This was a Draco and Harry romance. But it was a pretty toxic one. It also involved time travel, where Harry's children in the present time have traveled back in time to where Draco and Harry are at school, and they become friends with Draco because they have to stay away from Harry so that they don't mess with his future. But they become friends with Draco. Meanwhile, Draco and Harry have been kind of hooking up with each other. They have kind of like angry sex, and Draco dominates Harry in a few ways, which are fun for me. I enjoy them. But the thing about it is, now Draco, who was starting to get more feelings than just having a fuck buddy, is very like worried because he realizes that Harry has children and that he didn't have those children with him. So we're in this very angsty situation. So I enjoyed this one. The time travel, you know, for anyone that can be a bit confusing. So this one was a 4-star, but I had a good time with it. Then we had one of my 6-star reads, which I don't know if I'm going to end up getting to reread this one before the end of the year, even though I should, because it's one of my 6 stars. It's not in my top 10. I gave this one 6 stars completely for the atmosphere and the fun that I had when I read this. And that was Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. Okay, I had a ride with this book, okay? It was a ride. It was a fun time. Enzo and the heroine were just, they get stranded on a lighthouse island with a crazy lighthouse keeper, and they're stuck there, and it was what it was, okay? And I gave it 6 stars because I had a good time, all right? It was there. This was anonymously recommended. Then there was QB Tyler, First Semester. This one I didn't love. I have hit or miss feelings with QB Tyler's taboo books because sometimes they feel taboo for the sake of taboo, and that's something I'm realizing I don't love. I don't love taboo for taboo's sake. I like there to be more of a purpose and more of like an angsty feeling for the taboo. And this one was, she hooks up with someone, realizes it's her teacher, and he doesn't want to stop sleeping with her. It's been there, done that, and I thought the characters were both extremely childish, and honestly, that's something that I think QB Tyler does too often. She makes her characters very immature, and so you kind of are like, either like, why is the hero wanting to sleep with this woman, or why is this woman with this man who's creeping on her? So I gave this one 2.5 stars. Also anonymously recommended. Then I read Claimed by the Orc Prince by Lionel Hart. This was also anonymously recommended. This was the first in a trilogy, and I have ended up reading the first 2 books in this, and I never did read the third. I didn't fully like the characters or the back and forth that was happening, but I loved the idea of this and the setup. This was a gay romance. This was an arranged romance, and so there's the human, or is he fae? He might be a fae prince and an orc prince, and they form this alliance, and so they have to get married. And so it's kind of an enemies to lovers, and like they were really cute together, but the plot of it was frustrating, and they made stupid decisions in the second book. Like, talking about this first one, I gave it 3.5. Like, I was okay with it. But when I read the next part, it's why I decided not to read the third part, because they made some very dumb decisions that got, like, my boys just should have been smarter. Let's just say that. Like, my boys should have been smarter, and they weren't. And so that was frustrating for me. Yeah, it was. So 3.5 stars for them. Also anonymously recommended. Then there was Taking What's Mine. Then there was Taking What's Mine by Alexa Riley. This one was the first in her, like, in this kind of like DubCon series. She does a lot of that, which is totally fine. It works. And this one was, oh shoot, I don't even remember what the setup of this one was, but I know there was like DubCon. Like, all the scenarios in these were DubCon, but you read them like non-con until like the last chapter, and then you know that it was a setup each time. So I like that, because that means that some of these had like primal play in it, and they had rape fantasy involved, but again, they were all consented to ahead of time. So everything's consensual, but when you read the stories, you don't know they're consensual until like the turn at the end. So if you like rape fantasy, these books are great. And there's like 9 in this series or something. I got a box set of the first 3 from Eden Books, because you can't get most of these anywhere else. Alexa Riley, most of their books are on Eden Books. And I gave 4 stars to this. Then I read The Dom Who Loved Me by Lexi Blake. This was recommended by Mary B. This one was a bit tough. So I'd read another Lexi Blake before that was a part of the Mercenaries and Dons. I don't know what it was called. But this one, the hero and the hero, like, he needs to kind of like manipulate the heroine because they think her boss might be a bad dude. And they don't know whether she knows or not, you know, so they don't know if she's also bad or not. And he manipulates her a lot, and I don't love that because BDSM is involved. And so I don't like how the manipulation is using BDSM. And so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Then I read Devil's Pawn by Natasha Knight, recommended by Elizabeth T. I don't have much to say about this one. Natasha Knight just doesn't work for me. This hero was cruel. This also had a trigger warning for branding and like tattooing being forcibly done to the heroine. This was a forced arranged marriage and like basically a forced pregnancy happening as well. And it just didn't jive with me. Like, sometimes dark romance, we can work it. This one didn't for me. No. Go Deep by Rilsey Adams. This was recommended by bookish-minded. This one was one that I've been wanting to read for a long time. I already owned it on my Kindle, so I was happy to read this one. This one was, what is this one? How do I describe it? This one is like the heroine is a writer, and she gets her best friend to help her experiment sexually for her books. I think that covers it. Gave it 4 stars. The Danger You Know by Lily White. This was recommended by Kay Allister. Kay, if you're watching this, I would love for you to write me another book, okay? Kay wrote a book that I absolutely adored last year. It was her first book, and I really want her to write another one. So, Kay, write me another book. I loved it. This one was a stalker romance. I can't remember too many details of it, but I know it was a stalker romance, and our heroine ends up in a really like toxic relationship, and then the hero, to like save her from it, he like kidnaps her. So that happens, and I gave it 4 stars. Always Been You by QB Tyler. So there we go. There was another QB Tyler. This one was recommended anonymously. This one was the one where it's like adopted siblings, but her family's had her since she was a baby. So it does feel very taboo because he's her older brother. And so what if they're adopted? Like, they call each other brother and sister and are very much that way. So I gave it 4 stars. This one's very, very smutty. I understand why people like it. It's steamy, it's hot. But it's one upon reflection where I'm just like, don't feel too comfy about it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. Something Borrowed by Eve Dangerfield. This was recommended by Ashton. This was a female dom in it. This one, these two have been kind of like, I think his brother is marrying her friend. I don't know. They're kind of like frenemies. They don't get along. She likes to be dominant, and she has been shamed by men before who like either want her to do it but then feel bad that they want to be dominated, or else men who have like made her suppress that. And the hero, he really wants to be dominated by her. He really wants it, and so he gets her to kind of agree to do it for the week that they're at this like wedding trip, this destination wedding. The heroine just has too much like self-hate in this book. Like, it was really tough for me. And then also we're promised a lot of fun, sexy things that she'll do with him, and we only get to see 1 or 2. And that was disappointing. It was even more disappointing when I read the follow-up novella that's about them later on, and there was no sex in that book at all. I was so disappointed in Eve Dangerfield, who I think does do kink so well, and Something Borrowed just like really dropped the ball for me. So that was 3.5 stars. Charge by Kate C. Wells. This was recommended by Chelsea. No surprise, I had a very pleasant time with this. Kate C. Wells, I vibe with most all of her books I've read at this point. This one's the first in her motorcycle series, though. I haven't ended up reading more of it yet. I want to, though. I do want to. I gave this one 4 stars. It's a single mom. She's a young single mom, and the hero is in a biker gang. So there we go. Unnatural by Alexandra Hazard. This was recommended anonymously. This one was Omegaverse, and it's an arranged marriage, and it's between 2 alphas. And the thing is that one of the alphas is pretending to be a beta. His mother like lied and said he was a beta so that he would like be safe. But now, for a political reason, he gets put into a marriage with another alpha, and it could just blow everything up. It could just blow everything up. And it's very difficult for 2 alphas to be around each other. This one didn't have an MPreg in it, though, even though it mentions MPreg. So, like, it was okay. Like, it was okay. But I gave it 4 stars. Clayton by Rochelle Mills. This was recommended by Monica. This book fucked me up, guys. I gave this one 4 stars, but this was a fated mate scenario where, like, her fated mate rejects her, and it's not a romance between her and the guy who rejected her. It's a romance between her and someone else who's actually lost his mate. And so they don't think that they are soulmates because she knows who hers is and he lost his. And this one kind of ended with a cliffhanger. I haven't made it through the second book yet because this was so angsty. Like, it was so angsty. And it was very low steam, which was also, like, I understood why it was, but it doesn't give you kind of, like, the happiness relief for the level of sadness. Like, that's kind of the issue that I have with it, is, like, the level of angst isn't like balanced out by the happiness, and maybe that will happen in the second book. We'll see, but I still gave it 4 stars. Call the Coroner by Avril Ashton. This was recommended by Jasmine. 5 stars. Okay, love this. Read this in October. This book, oh my gosh, this one is a romance. There is like a hitman and a cartel boss, and the hitman had killed the cartel boss's wife, and then he like escaped. He had tried to kill the hero. He actually had like almost killed him. He garroted him, but he didn't die. And so it's been a few years later, and now the mafia boss, he has found the man who killed his wife and tried to kill him, and he's going to torture him and kill him, but they fall in love. This was such a fucked up book. This was very bloody. This was gory. There is torture of one main character to the other character, and I loved it. Okay, I gave it 5 stars. Loved it. His Saving Grace by Kylie Gopal. This is recommended by Daniela. I want another book in this series so bad. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was a fated mate romance. This is between a heroine who has also lost her fated mate, but then an alpha from another pack is coming to make a deal with her pack, and he sees her and realizes she's his mate. Now, he's a single dad. He's lost his mate. She wasn't his, like, fated mate. She was a woman he had chose to be his mate. And she left him and their daughter. And so he's a single dad. And the only thing really that kept him going was his daughter. And now he realizes he has a fated mate. And now she doesn't want to be with him because she's lost a fated mate. And he kind of like uses his power as like, I'm not going to do this deal if she doesn't come with me. So he does hold some leverage over her. But I loved this. I loved their teamwork and their communication. And as they fall in love, because he makes her come live with them. He doesn't force her to be his mate or to like be with him sexually at all. Like, it's not that kind, but he forces her to come and like live in his home and be there because he's like, you're my mate and you might not want to accept me, but I can't lose another mate. There are people who depend on me, so you have to come and be in my proximity at least. And I loved that. I did. I loved it. He was using his power, but he also was still like begging her to kind of love him. And I liked that. I did. I liked that. All right. With Force by Daisy Jane, I gave this 4 stars. This was a rape fantasy and a friends to lovers. This was book 3 in a series. I plan to read the first 2 books this year. But yeah, this one is, he's a police officer and she's a nurse. And they are finally getting together. Like, their friends are coupled up and they're finally getting together, and she shares with him that she has rape fantasy. And I really liked how this one went because he doesn't tell her she's crazy. He just is having trouble reconciling, which is absolutely fair. I think that's fair. You know, not any time when we share our kink with our partner are they, number 1, into it, and number 2, do they get it, right? Because they might not have that same need to do that. But what I love is that he's taken aback, but then he's like, okay, I need you to explain why you like it, and I need to think about it, because he's a police officer and it disturbs him to think of someone hurting her, let alone him hurting her. So I love the communication because she talks through, she's like, you're never actually hurting me. That's why this would work. She's like, I don't actually want someone to hurt me. I want someone I trust completely to break into my house and do dirty things to me and get to have the adrenaline rush and the excitement of it while knowing you'll stop if I want you to and you'll be here, which is exactly what, you know, rape fantasy is. That you can explore your desires or work through things. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. This heroine isn't really needing to work through anything, which I also love. Like, she does have a little bit of like trauma in her past, but it's not so much so that she's like, I need this to have sex. She just wants it. And so I loved the communication for this. Now, a little bit of the like plot near the end of this, I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I did give it 4 stars, but thank you, Lisa, for this recommendation. I will be reading more of this author. Then we have Flawless by Elsie Silver, recommended by Rachel. This one is like a triple double. This was recommended by so many people, but it was put in my book rec form. So Rachel, you're getting some credit. It's literally right behind me right there. I also read this as an exclusive review for my patrons, but I think the secret's out that I loved this. I gave it 5 stars, and also like Heartless is one of my favorite books this year. So I love Elsie Silver. We're here for it. I read Be My Baby by One Equal Temper. This was anonymously recommended. This, and I'm glad that it's anonymous because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings who recommended this, but there's 2 things with this one that were really tough for me. One was, I knew this was DDLG, like I know that's what it was, but and we're going to talk about DDLG some more. If you don't know, that's Daddy Dom, Little Girl. It's a type of age play. It's a type of like age gap thing where the little girl acts little and acts like a child. And this one, though, I did find hot. Like, I did find hot. And they don't live in their dynamic all the time. So there were times where we got out of it. This is a Draco and Hermione, kind of set in the real world. He is actually older than her in this setup. He's a doctor, and she is a student. And they end up meeting after meeting at like a club one night. And they end up chatting and they start their dynamic. The thing that I don't love is this book is not finished. So that's something else. When you're recommending fics to me, please don't recommend unfinished fics, because there's nothing that takes the wind out of my sails longer than like it's not finished and like the author hasn't updated this one in 6+ months, but they're working on other fics. So I don't know if I'm going to get an ending to this. So I might have ended up liking this more, but it just ended and that made me sad. So this one was 4-star, but it was right on my line, and we're going to talk about one that goes over my line, but this one was right on my line of DDLG where it was almost too much, but I loved Draco and I love the comfort that happens in DDLG. It's why I keep picking them up even when they squick me out just a little bit. They squick me out just a little bit. The Longing of Lone Wolves by Lana Perchek. This was recommended by Shreyasi. This was a 5-star read for me. I loved this. I ended up binging the entire series that's out because of this. I'd been wanting to read this. It had been recommended by Crystal. I'd seen a few other people read it. And then I had someone send me the physical copy. I got it sent as a gift. Do I have it? I have it. I can't get it out. It's stuck in there. But, I loved it. I listened to all the audiobooks, like I said, and this was 5-star. This was a like post-apocalyptic, but it's also a fae romance. This is a wolf shifter. He's been cursed, and he meets the woman who can finally see him after 50 years of being unseen and being alone. And I loved where it went. I loved it. 5 stars. Off to the Races by Elsie Silver, recommended by Stacy. I gave this one 4 stars. I'm continuing that series this year, eagerly waiting for Powerless. This one was a workplace romance. The heroine is a trainer, and the hero is trying to save his family business of training racehorses. 4 stars, really good. Coldhearted by Heather Guerrero. This was recommended by Linoletta. This was 4.5 stars, and I also binged this whole series. There's 3 out so far. This book, OMG. This one was, I said it was like Twilight fanfic if you were Team Jacob. That's how I've been pitching it. This heroine, she was in an abusive relationship, spoiler, with a vampire, but she didn't know that. That's why she was in such a depressing relationship. And so she moves to this tiny town in Alaska to be a teacher. And the pilot on the plane who brought her over, he is very judgmental and like grouchy around her, and she doesn't know why. But the whole town like really likes her, and she's fitting into this small town. And then she is being stalked by her ex-boyfriend, who again, he's a vampire. And she finds out that almost all of the wolves in this town, or I just spoiled it, all the people in this town are werewolves. And yeah, it was like Twilight fanfic for me. I'm saying it. And then I read the next 2 books, and they also had like aspects of that as well. So 4.5, really enjoyed it. The Love You Take by Subversa. These last 3 are all fanfics, by the way. This was recommended by Ashton. This is one she has really wanted me to read. This is a Severus and Hermione fanfic. This book was intense. Okay, this book was intense. This one is a sex curse one, where Hermione and Severus are forced, like she has a curse done on her and she has to have sex with Severus, and it was intense. I gave it 4 stars and it was brilliant. I understand why Ashton liked it, but it was just like, it was too heavy for me. It was too heavy for me, and it drug on for a really long time, which happens with fics. Sometimes they do. They're either too short or too long. There was 7 Years by Sunshine, and this was recommended by Kara. This was my first ever Star Trek fanfic. This was a Kirk and a Spock, and where Spock is impotent, but he still finds ways to dominate and fuck the life out of Kirk, and it was brilliant. I had a great time. I gave it 4 stars because it's pure smut. Like, there's not too much story, but there's different kinks in every chapter, and it was a great time. And then the last one I want to mention is Sinning and Healing by Dancing in the Ashes, and this was recommended by Carly B. And I won't go into like all the things that didn't work for this one, because I did talk about this in a recent wrap up, because I just read this one. But this is the DDLG that went too far for me. So this was a Bill and Hermione fic. I was very excited to read this. I love the idea of Bill Weasley and Hermione. And Hermione was in a abusive relationship with Ron, where she shared her desires with him, which was for some dominance and submission, and he kind of takes that and runs with it, and honestly is pretty abusive to her, and it's very tough to see. But we start this where she's broken up from Ron, and she's been kind of isolated by that breakup because she gets blamed for a lot of it. And Bill is back in town after, like, so he's a divorced guy, like he was with Fleur for years, and he actually had a dynamic with Fleur because he likes to be a daddy dom, right? And he was interested in Hermione many years ago, but she was with his brother, and he thought she was good in that. And it's only now that he realizes she isn't. And they are like working together because she wants to become a curse breaker. He doesn't want her to be a curse breaker. And so there's some stuff with that. And he ends up disciplining her in his office in an inappropriate way, but it really awakens her, and she realizes that she does want that. And so they start their relationship, which is very spicy. And the thing that went too far is Hermione goes very little, and they live basically a 24/7 dynamic. Ugh, and I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't like when she's little all the time. I don't like bottles or passies or like, ugh, I just can't. And this is a no shame zone. This is no shame to the person who recommended it. I don't think you're wrong to like it, but we all have where our kinks, like where it ends. And like, I'm okay with the, you know, the cuddles and the like the dirty talk being naughty, and like bathing, or even some like feeding. But the bottles at night and like the binky when they're watching movies, like, I can't, because it's too childlike and it starts to feel predatory, even though I know it's not. Like, I know it's not. Like, Bill is so caring, and that's why I was able to finish this. Like, I was able to finish this fic because the aftercare and the cuddling and like the comfort is there. And for me, that's why I think people love DDLG, is the aftercare in DDLG is a next level, because you cannot, this is not the same as like, let's just spank around and then let me, you know, kiss you at the end. Like, you have to give extensive aftercare when you're doing this kind of play. And I really feel like that's an appeal, and I can understand that. I can understand it and appreciate it, but I don't want to read it. So I'm putting my flag here, like, I don't want any more DDLG Rex. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. Because I don't like hating on a book for a kink. Like, I hope that's clear about my character and like what I'm trying to do on the Book Refuge. I don't want to hate on books for their kinks. So that's why I know I've went into a longer explanation, but I just want to be clear that I hope I always make people feel safe for the recs that they'll give me. But part of that is telling you the ones that I like won't want. And I think I found a line, and it was somewhere between Be My Baby and Sinning and Healing, right? Like, that's where my line's at, okay? Like, I could handle the Draco and Hermione because a lot of their play was him saying stuff to her that makes her feel little. And she would like to color or like be able to have like a tantrum, right? She's this, you know, very put together woman, and she wants to be able to like have a tantrum and then kind of get like a punishment for it. And in Sinning and Healing, it just was, she wants to be little like all the time. And I don't like that, because I still want her to be like a woman sometimes and not a child. Anyway, that's enough of it. That is catching you up. These are all the recs that I had this year, or catching us up to the year from you guys. I look forward to another year of taking your recs. I'm so excited. I hope you are giving me recs in the link down below. And again, I hope that what I've got to with all of this today is just kind of clearing up like what I'm looking for with recs, but also don't change. Send me the recs you want. If I don't want to read them, I just won't. And you haven't lost anything. You don't have to say your name when you recommend it, but you can. If you want to give me an explanation, fine. If you just want to throw it in there and tell me the tropes, that is more than enough sometimes. It is more than enough for you to say, this is the book, the tropes are this. I will see it, and I will hopefully pick it up when I can. So thank you so much for watching, for sticking around for this very like discombobulated one. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I know that when you're seeing this, I'm on vacation and having a great time, and we'll see you in 2023. Bye.